Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the deep end, taking an impartial look at a truly fascinating intersection of power, philosophy, and technology. Based on our sources, we are going to unpack how a theoretical concept, something called a Thespian Defang, or the desire to reclaim power and silence critics, escalates into absolute real-world domination once you arm it with massive capital. We're talking about how unlimited funds are allegedly used to systematically engineer both our legal and our digital realities. It is a wild ride, so let's get right into it. Let's kick things off with a pretty intense quote from tech billionaire Peter Thiel. He actually used these exact words, calling them the Silicon Valley equivalent of Al-Qaeda to describe Valleywag, which was a blog owned by the media network Gawker. Now, you might be wondering, why the intense hostility, right? Well, back in 2007, that media outlet published an article allegedly outing Thiel as gay, and this single publication, it set the stage for one of the most astonishing power plays of the 21st century. And that power play culminated in this staggering number, $140 million. This was the massive jury verdict that ultimately bankrupted Gawker in 2016. On the surface, the lawsuit was brought by former professional wrestler Hulk Hogan after Gawker published an unauthorized tape of him. But what makes this story so critical to our explainer today is that the millions of dollars funding Hogan's legal team didn't just come from the plaintiff. Nope. It was secretly bankrolled by Peter Thiel. Okay, here's our roadmap for today. We'll hit the proxy war blueprint, the hidden master philosophy, weaponizing the legal system, Palantir and digital sovereignty, the modern elite closure, and finally, reclaiming the digital state. Let's move on. Section 1, the proxy war blueprint. Orchestrating an end to a media empire. Look at this timeline. This was definitely not a swift emotional reaction. In 2007, the initial article is published. It wasn't until 2012 that Gawker posted the Hogan tape. And finally, in 2016, boom, the $140 million verdict hits. Legal scholars note this wasn't your standard dispute over damages. It was a meticulously planned multi-year proxy war. Thiel reportedly funded a team of lawyers to actively seek out victims of Gawker's coverage and mount devastating cases against them. So this wasn't just a theoretical critique of the media, it was the targeted deployment of capital to force a real-world outcome. Section 2, the hidden master philosophy, decoding Peter Thiel's worldview. To understand the why behind this, our sources point to Thiel's primary philosophical influences. You've got Carl Schmitt's stark friend versus enemy distinction and Oswald Spengler's theories on Western decline. But he heavily relies on Leo Strauss's concept of esoteric writing. This is basically the idea that absolute truth is hidden, and an enlightened, initiated elite must operate as hidden masters to guide society, completely shielding their true intentions from the masses. When you think about it, Thiel's secretly funding the Gawker lawsuit is a literal, real-world manifestation of this exact hidden master approach. Actually, in his own 2004 essay, The Straussian Moment, Thiel uses these exact methods himself. Critics and political theorists point out that he buries a radical, anti-democratic endorsement of Caesarism, which is the rule by a strong authoritarian leader, in untranslated German and Latin text at the very end of his essay. It's a classic esoteric maneuver to mask his ultimate ambitions from the casual reader, while winking at an initiated elite. Section 3, weaponizing the legal system, third-party leverage. So how does this philosophy execute in the real world? The crucial mechanism here is third-party litigation funding. In this specific context, we're talking about the clandestine financial support of a lawsuit by a totally unconnected, wealthy individual. This funding model allows people with massive capital to completely bypass traditional legal standing rules. Thiel couldn't easily sue Gawker directly to shut them down over that 2007 article without getting into messy discovery, right? So he used his wealth to weaponize someone else's standing, turning the courts into a tool to target and annihilate a specific media outlet. It completely shifts the paradigm. Traditional litigation is about seeking personal restitution and resolving disputes fairly, but revenge funding, that is about target annihilation. According to our sources, this shatters the fantasy shield, that illusion that the press operates in a protected, theoretical realm, by just crushing it with the brute force of unlimited capital. It transforms the legal system from a venue for dispute resolution into a highly targeted weapon. What starts as a theoretical Thespian defanging of the media escalates into absolute, real-world destruction. Section 4, Palantir and digital sovereignty. The tech enclosure. This mindset of reclaiming power isn't just limited to the courts, it bleeds directly into our digital infrastructure. Our sources argue that the company Palantir is a prime example of this enslaver's mindset manifesting in reality. The name alone is a dead giveaway. It's named after the Seeing Stones in Lord of the Rings. In the myth, these are incredibly powerful surveillance tools that are morally neutral, but they distort the truth and present selective visions of reality if corrupt forces wield them. The name signals this overarching philosophy. Data analytics and mass surveillance are potent tools for uncovering secrets, allowing an elite class to gain a massive strategic advantage. The sources outline a pretty clear historical progression away from our digital freedom. Step 1 was the open web. Step 2 became digital tenancy, where corporate landlords enclosed the web into walled gardens. And step 3 is what researchers call agentic kingship, or the 1689 breach. This is a modern cloud enclosure where everyday users are stripped of their local execution and agency by centralized tech monarchs. Just as the courts were enclosed and weaponized by massive capital, our digital capabilities are being walled off by massive centralized AI and cloud architectures. Section 5. The modern elite closure, laundering privilege. Sociologists refer to this macro reality as elite closure. It's basically a social alchemy where elites smoothly convert historical caste privilege into shiny, seemingly meritocratic modern credentials. They isolate socially by marrying within strict tiers, and crucially, whenever a field becomes fair or democratized, they simply disinvest and move their monopolies to entirely new, unregulated frontiers. Think offshore crypto or decentralized networks, always ensuring they stay one step ahead of the public. Now, what's really fascinating here is the profound sociological paradox this creates, called asymmetric stratification. Look at how this ties everything together. The elite class operates anonymously. They are the hidden masters, unmarked, pulling the strings in the background, secretly funding lawsuits. Meanwhile, the subaltern class, which is the rest of us, are permanently tagged, hyper-visible, and constantly tracked by tools like Palantir, just to receive basic resources. The top cruises entirely anonymously, while the bottom is trapped in a suffocating web of surveillance. Section 6. Reclaiming the digital state. Forging the bridge. So what do? How do we push back against this legal and computational enclosure? Researchers argue the only way to avoid the royalist cloud is to secure something called the semiotic bridge. This is the exact mechanism connecting your abstract human intent directly to concrete, deterministic physical execution. The idea is, instead of relying on an opaque corporate cloud, you lock your intent into highly exact, structured code that executes flawlessly on hardware you actually possess and control. To do this, we must structurally ensure our freedom. First, you literally have to reject the cloud enclosure and digital tenancy entirely. You must apply the proximity law of compute, keeping your processing physically close to you. You marry your record of intent to your local physical hardware, completely refusing to rent your cognitive capabilities from a digital landlord. By restoring the local execution of what they called the sovereign pilot, you safely navigate around the tar baby trap of these massive legacy systems designed just to extract your value. We are witnessing what sources call a masterclass in the architecture of domination. So I want to leave you with this final, highly provocative thought. When massive capital successfully engineers both our legal system and our digital reality, who truly holds sovereign power? Are you the sovereign pilot of your own life, or just a digital tenant in someone else's empire? Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.